Free Sport live and exclusive in full stereo and glorious colour today. The city of Wellington, the harbour capital, is lined up and ready, along with the drivers, some of the best touring car drivers in the world, ready to start this year's Nissan Mobil 500. Joining us today for our Free Sport commentary, expert comments from top New Zealand motor racing drivers David Oxton and Brian Lawrence. It's been a great weekend so far. We are now down to the big moment, the start of the great race. What's going through the minds of the drivers? For example, David Oxton, Emanuele Pirot. GTR, and it's Mark Scaife at the wheel. According to our stats, car number 2. After winning Bathurst, they said, right, let's go to Wellington and beat that Schnitzer team. Here's the man that's driven with David Oxton before, Peter Brock. Peter Perfect. How will his racing lines be today, David?
Well, he's so relaxed this weekend, which is kind of nice. You know, I know he is always cool, but he's willing to help everyone. He's willing to talk to everyone. But I think he's quietly confident. He knows the Wellington weather's as unpredictable as Parliament, and he's going to go for it as soon as we see some damp.
Now, it's not a flying start, is it? It's the rolling start, correct?
It's a rolling start. 30 seconds, they'll move off behind the pace car. Flashing lights don't mean anything at all. It's just to draw your attention to it.
And then the next time they come round after the warm-up lap, we should get the green light. Looking back from the car of Emanuele Pirot back onto the Nissan GTR, this is looking forward back onto the track, and the face cams of Mark Scaife at the wheel of the Nissan GTR. Godzilla in God's own. Peter Brock. Back to Scaife. Warming up the tyres, getting the nerves set. Some fantastic pictures you'll be seeing today. A field of 42, the largest since '87. As they come around by the overseas sweeper. The conditions today, it's overcast and cool. If it becomes wet later on today, we could see a very different race from what we're going to see at the start.
Possibly build up speed for a clean start.
They've also got to hold their line too and get themselves set in the racing lines on the grid positions. Top 10, Pirot, Richard, Scaife, Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, Waldock, Scott, Holm, Barrow, Billington. The tension starting to build in this year's Nissan Mobil 500. We are just seconds away as the pace car looks like it's going to go down to pit lane. No, it's going to come down through the main straight. The field lining up, a field of 42 for the great race in '91, the Nissan Mobil 500. Do we get the green light? We are racing, and look at that start by Michael Scaife. What a start on the rocket ship. Scaife right down to the hairpin, takes the lead from the pole position of Emanuele Pirot. Then it's Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, Riley, Scott. That's the Scott Riley car as they head up towards the Nissan Mobil 500 gates, and a great start by the Nissan GTR.
What a magic start. You see that twin turbo really just blast the power down past the BMW. The BMW struggles a little bit when it's full of fuel, but don't worry, that'll come back. But the Godzilla has got this race by the throat, thrusting out. Mark Scaife doing it great.
So a fantastic start by the Nissan as the field now move through the very quick part of the circuit. It's the bumpy roads down the bumps of Cable Street.
So it's Pirot, it's Longhurst, it's Brock. There's a big lock-up from Brett Riley.
Kane Scott.
There's a problem here. He's straight off the escape road.
So it's Kane Scott. He's been at the wheel of the Trans Am in the big Sierra, and this time he's lost it. First time round in the first lap, so a dramatic start for the Brett Riley, Kane Scott team with Scott at the wheel. But here is Scaife, Mark Scaife, Pirot second, Longhurst third.
Well, we've got one of the rescue cars out on the circuit already. One of the Toyota Corollas is circulating out there with the back end very, very badly damaged, and they've put the rescue car out. So this is going to already bring the race to a momentarily slow as they run under the yellows, which are being given now. That's the Keith Sharp Castrol BMW, firmly jammed into the fence. Certainly not a good place to be for a guy who runs a driving school.
Well, that must have been a start incident. Obviously, it just didn't get off the grid. Maybe got drop kicked or sideways at the flagpole, or the rolling start fall. But already the top three are easing away from Dick Johnson. The Sierras are struggling this year to run with the pace of these BMWs and, of course, Godzilla. But Brocky doing a great job there with the Mobil Commodore. Sounds like 1,000,000 miles an hour and goes like it. Just look at those three guys there.
So it's Scaife, Pirro, Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, and then it's Kevin Waldock coming down Denny Hall. Then it goes back to car 44, Dave Barrow down the front straight. There's been an incident with the Corolla. We'll pick up that action in just a moment as it's Scaife winding around through towards the overseas sweeper. And there's car number 13. We are racing again in the Nissan Mobil 500.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Skate seemed to be the only one that was really wide awake when that came, because they've all got the opportunity to bunch up and behind each other. But when they let them go, there was only about 4 or 5 of them who were really on the case. And Skate's taken advantage of this. Look at the gap already. He's gone.
Well, I'm going to say that's a little bit of a single-seater experience involving himself here, because in single-seater racing, you learn to stand on the gas immediately the flag drops, because you've got to get that advantage. The touring car endurance boys usually kind of roll into things, but not Mark Scaife. He's hard on it.
Winner of the Formula Brabant class in Australia, showing his experience in the single-seaters. And he's a hell of a nice guy too, Scaife, just like all the guys in the Nissan team. They love their motor racing. In fact, Brocky, Johnson, all these guys are really right up there, aren't they? And just love the sport.
Jim Richards fans don't take any notice of the fact that Jim is not starting in this race first. Simply a decision made on practical experience here. Mark's done most of the testing at the circuit. He was more familiar with the car under racing conditions at the start of the race with a full load of gas. And that's the decisions. Fred Gibson makes decisions based upon winning races, not emotions.
What about the smoke that you see puffing out the side every now and then?
No, we know this wonderful technical masterpiece, the Nissan GTR, has got twin turbo, and it's literally forcing the fuel through the exhaust system and out the back. So you're seeing a little bit of unburnt fuel coming out. It isn't a problem.
Down this part of the circuit, it is absolutely fantastic watching it live on the track. The noise and the Mark Scaife, as close as you can get to the streets of Wellington and to the walls.
Well, just looking down from our commentary position here is that the Mark Scaife crew are already down here. We could be seeing Mark Scaife, our race leader in today's Nissan Mobil 500, making an unscheduled pit stop. The crew are down here at the ready. There's instructions being not shouted but carefully calculated in all directions. The crew are down there with the guns. But let's just see exactly what's happening with Mark Scaife. Topping it up with fuel, they're doing the wheels. There doesn't seem to be any major mechanical changes going on. They brought it in. Is this all part of Fred Gibson's plans? We'll be getting our pit report down there from John Cardwell and Murray Taylor.
Place from leading the race, and there is Fred Gibson with Jimmy Richards. Looks a bit worried, and John Cardwell. And at the moment, Freddie Gibson is just going over to check the situation with his pit crew.
But meanwhile, back on the race.
It's probably got to be a dud set of tyres or a slow puncher they were worried about. They've obviously had communication. It's got to be something wrong with that first set of tyres.
Well, it certainly means we've now got a race back on our hands after he was like the hare that cleared out from the rest of the field. It was like run, rabbit, run, Wally Pirro. And here is the big V8. The sound of the kingpins with those big grunters. Peter Brock last year finished second in a Sierra, and he's second on the road at this stage. And the VN Holden Commodore. So it's Armco. That's the key word. Also, as Emanuele Pirro flies past one of the Holden Commodores in the pits, we have Trevor Crowe with the TB3 Subaru and Possum Bourne, the New Zealand rally driver, all set to make his debut on the streets of Wellington. He says it's a fantastic course. He's had to go around Pukekohe, got it sideways going around Ruapuna, and he wants to sort of stay away from these Armco walls of Wellington. But this must be an unscheduled pit stop. And mind you, they thought they might have to have about 4 because of the Group N class. They can't have too much in the old fuel capacity.
Remember, this racing's all about teamwork. It's mechanics who really give of their time to come here and have the fun. Arguably fun is the strain of burning yourself and missing out on sleep and missing out on eating and everything. But these guys love it. They just live for their motorsport, and the mechanics get a buzz out of changing the wheels as quickly as they can.
So it's Possum Bourne behind the wheel. Let's go down to John Cardwell with Trevor Crowe.
Trevor Crowe, fantastic, but a little bit slow on that pit stop.
Sorry, what was that?
You're a little bit slow on the pit stop there, Trevor. What was the problem?
No, we're not slow. We've got just ordinary jacks and ordinary wheel nuts to undo. It's not like a Group A car.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, this is a big change for you the last time you ran here.
Yeah, it is, although it's the same sort of thing. You're driving out there as hard as you can go and doing the quickest times you can, really.
Was that a scheduled pit stop with Possum getting in?
Yeah, well, we've no idea how far it's going to go on fuel, and it's already starting to surge. So I don't want to be stranded out there. Now we'll be able to measure how much it's taken, and we'll be able to tell Possum how long to stay out there.
I'm just interested, who was the fastest in practice, you or Possum?
I was.
Okay, all right. All the best for the rest of the race, Trevor.
That's my car.
Trevor Crowe talking to John Cardwell. They've actually changed the gearbox as well in the Subaru Legacy RS. So Possum Bourne, the street race rookie, is out there going for clean racing lines, learning his track craft, which he's been doing at Ruapuna and Pukekohe as he goes in practice for the racing. So from the rally to the road, Possum Bourne doing his thing in the Subaru this year. Actually, they're now leading Group N, but when they were leading Group N. We'll update that situation because they may have just slipped back after that pit stop.
That Nissan is back in pit road. We'll bring the action.
Right, there's drama down on the pits, and it's the Nissan back into the pits.
Let's see if we can have a look at the action on that first turn.
Here's the Armour All protected replay. Scafie racing out and just clipped straight in front of the leading car, Emanuele Pirro. He won't be too pleased about that.
Scafie just did not have his mind on the job. I'm sorry, that's the only answer for that.
And that's a sign of the pressure with the Nissan team under at the moment because they're not too sure exactly what's wrong.
There's the Nissan. Still looking at the tail end of that. But of course, when you check the driving forces out in this little beauty, you've got to go front and rear.
So a dramatic start for the Nissan GTR back in the pits. And the great race has turned out to be a bit of a disaster so far for the Nissan team. On the road, Emanuele Pirro out in front from Tony Longhurst and Peter Brock. And look at that gap now.
The big mover has got to be Tony Longhurst. He's hauled away from Brocky and he's closing in on Emanuele. Although Emanuele had a bit of a problem. Let's have a look at the action from the camera with Brocky.
the moment. His quickest lap has been a 1:29 on the road in the Holden Commodore. He's currently lying third. When we come back, the battle resumes in this year's Nissan Mobil 500.
Well, here in the pits, we have son of Godzilla, Wayne Munro. Tell us about this Nissan we've got sitting here in the pits. This is a new initiative for next season in New Zealand, I understand.
Actually, it's grandson of Godzilla, I think, Murray. It's the GTIR that Paddy Davidson's running's the son. This one's going to be in the Nissan GT Cup Series, not for next summer, but for the summer after. And what it is a one-make series, 12 rounds we were hoped to run, probably in the North Island initially. But the aim being a real equal formula, real driver's formula, using these little Nissans and running, as I say, 12 rounds, 6 meetings throughout the country, and $60,000 prize money at the end of it. So we think it's a real big thing for New Zealand motorsport.
Now, for $20,000, what do you get? Do you get the car fully kitted out to go racing?
That's exactly right. You get a turnkey racer, 1600cc engine, fuel injected. It's got the race tyres from Dunlop on board already. One set of them anyway. You might need a few more down the line. ROH mags on the wheels, and inside the car, Corbo seats, Momo steering wheels, brake pads already ready to go. So competition parts, the car's ready to jump into and run. What we think is we'll get a lot of young guys in the sport, also people from other forms of motor racing who haven't got the money to spend big bucks. So in other words, no, you don't need the big checkbook to win in this class. What you need to do is be able to drive in a very equal formula, a bit like Formula Ford, but like F3 in Britain, I guess. And as I say, $60,000 prize money. I don't think there is another series in New Zealand with that much money. And at the end of it, what we're proposing to do is take the winner of the GT Cup overseas to a race somewhere and put them in a Nissan, probably a production car, and let them race on that. Because, of course, the guy who does win it, or girl, is going to be a very, very good driver, because they're going to have to compete against 20, maybe 40 very equal cars.
So here is the action. Mark Scaife, John Carr will take it over.
Right, there's the fuel going in at the back of the car, and the jacks are up. The wheels are coming off again. By crikey, look at that flame coming out of the exhaust. She's running rich down here in the pits. Now they've got the wheels off. There's a mechanic right underneath the car, right underneath there, and they're working on, let me get under it myself and have a look. I'll try and dig it in for you. They're working on something to do with the drive line. Meanwhile, the door is open, and they're talking to Mark through the headset. Keith McCormick from Yokohama just checking out the tyres. Keith, have you got any idea what's going on here?
No, I don't.
Well, that's the tyre man. He's happy with his product. Now they're looking underneath the suspension on the right-hand rear side, and the mechanics are right in under there, digging around. Now we'll try and get a word up front and see if we can find out any more for you down here in the pit area. No, Fred's busy talking to Mark. Mark's taking a drink. They're looking around at each other. This is serious. This is serious stuff, folks. I can tell you, David, you're right. 2 pit stops is not good. Now this is third, and the engine is off. The engine has been switched off. Jimmy Richards, I'm sorry, mate, to interrupt. I know you're busy. What is the story, mate? Any idea? No. He's had to walk away. I'll try again. Freddie, any idea?
No idea.
You got the back off.
I got an idea. I would tell you what's wrong. I got no idea.
I'm sorry to keep asking you, mate.
Oversteering like a mad dog.
Righto, there you go. That's the best we can do for you, David, at this stage. Oversteering.
For the BMW team, Nissans are in trouble. We don't know what it is yet. Fred Gibson hasn't got the facts for us, but confirming the placings at this time, Manuel Pirro leading the #1 BMW M3 for the Schnitzer team from Tony Longhurst. Car number 25, all the way from Australia in last year's winning BMW. Peter Brock in the Mobil 1 Commodore. Vicky Johnson in the Shell Ford Sierra. The turbo car number 17 picks up 4th from Waldock, and a sister car to that. And of course, Denny Holm, New Zealand's favourite son in car 54, the BMW M3. BMWs, 3 of them in the top 6. The Nissan is back out on the circuit, but theoretically discounted. He's out there, please viewers, he's only going to just go round and round now. He's dropped off too much time.
In fact, the Nissan GTR is not even in the top 20 at this stage. So that is a real tragedy for gentleman Jim Richards, whose big hope was to win this race this year. He hasn't even had a chance to get behind the wheel, and already the car is off the pace with 3 pit stops. Peter Brock up to second place, doing 130s at the moment. As we go around the field and update some of the rest of the classes for you, because with 42 cars in the field, lots of Kiwis out there.
Fred Gibson, 1.5 hours into the race. You've now sorted out what the problem is. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, Murray, we've broken front diff. Cable Street's taken its toll on the car, and the bumps have broke the front differential, probably stripped the crown wheel. So, like, as you see on the TV, it's jumping all over the track down there, and it's stripped all the teeth off. See, the car weighed, we did an exercise this morning, the car weighed 1,576 kilo with Mark in the car at the start of the race. So it's a big heavy car, and sort of done, so it's only rear-wheel drive at present.
Okay, now does that put extra strain on the rear diff?
Yeah, it has on the rear diff and the rear half shafts, and also the rear tyres. Mark's coming in shortly for rear tyres, which is about half the distance we should be doing.
Okay, well, we've got more drama because Peter Brock's just come into the pits.
Thanks, Murray.
We're going to see a few changes now. It sort of brings out the who's who of the drivers. It's a whole new different ball game. The cars will be being altered by the brake balances and the bar adjustments that they have inside some of the more sophisticated cars. It brings out who's good in the wet. Cross is particularly good in the wet. I think you'll see even a better performance from Pirro and Winkelhock, who are superb anyway. Watch Tony Longhurst. There's Godzilla in behind it. This will probably give this car a little bit of a better run than what it's having at the moment. They're sitting in 9th position at this point, just with the diff on it. Longhurst is about 1 minute and 4 seconds behind in 2nd position. But of course, as he said, when we spoke to him earlier on today, he said this is a race that can be won or lost in the pits.
And how's that? Longhurst waving Richards through.
Yeah. Well, he knows it's not really a contest. Richards is, several laps behind now. Longhurst is a contender for the lead. He's only 1 minute 30 behind at this point, and that's nothing. As soon as the rain covers the track, it all goes to a new set of rules.
We know Tony Longhurst has had a great drive here in the rain many years ago with Trevor Crowe. Remember that race, the BMW? So we know he's great in the wet. Welcome back to 3 Sport as we update the situation with the great race. Emanuele Pirro out front, about to come in for a pit stop with Joachim Winkelhock. Longhurst and Jones currently in 2nd place with Alan Jones at the wheel now, down by 1 minute behind. Brock and Perkins. Larry Perkins at the wheel currently in 4th. Then we have Denny Holm in 4th, I should say, with Perkins in 3rd. Graham Crosby at the wheel of car number 28 in 5th place. It's Brett Riley and Kane Scott in 6th in car 3. And moving up the field after the disastrous start will be the Nissan GTR. Look at that. Jimmy Richards turning in laps of 131, 132 up to 8th place. And the Porsche in the top 10. Nigel Arkle, Dave Slater in 7th place at the moment in car 15. And then it's the Jones, Billings and Holden Commodore. But the Nissan at this stage is around about 6 laps behind the race leader. But at least he's got back into the race. And they're back out there in the top 10. Behind the wheel of the supercar. They've had a terrible day so far. And now it's a real dogfight to see if Richards can actually catch up through the field. And the only thing that would basically mean that the BMW would stop them from taking would be mechanical trouble.
Benny, you've just joined us. The reason why the Godzilla is not really in the hunt, it's certainly got the speed, but at the moment it appears that from what Fred Gibson, team manager, has said, the front differential is broken. It is only driving through the rear wheels, and it makes it a pretty amazing effort the way the car is going, considering it's only driving through 2 of its normal 4-wheel drive. This makes it harder on tyres. In fact, Winkelhock has now got up to speed through coming in, obviously, full load of gas, new tyres. He's rejoined, and he seemed to give in very easily to Jim Richards. Now the tyres have come in. Now he's up to speed. Now he's confident. He's going to make a race of it. Again, his mental attitude and driving abilities are tuned to going flat out.
With that driver change, it now means that it's car 25, the Tony Longhurst. Trying to whip through the gap there. Oh, and Longhurst has hit the wall. Amazing here at the Nissan Mobil 500, and Tony Longhurst has had an off there. with John Sachs in the BMW, and that is a big smash right at the entrance to front straight. As we take a look at that again on the replay, and Tony Longhurst just trying to squeeze through the entrance, just clipping the guard of John Sachs and then straight into the Armco. This is the reason why the Wellington street race is so demanding and so grueling, and one mistake, you can get it all wrong. And Tony Longhurst is head there suffering whiplash as they total the $200,000 BMW M3, last year's winning car, out of the race this year in 91. And luckily at this stage, Tony Longhurst has just suffered whiplash and a scratch to the head. So let's update the positions now. And the Nissan Mobil 500 on the road. It's Joachim Winkelhock who leads in the BMW M3, the 3-Sport Castrol Snitcher team. They've done a fantastic job so far today. Larry Perkins in the Holden Commodore 05. Second, Robbie Francevic in the BMW M3. Look at that, the Kiwis getting right up there. And car number 54, the car that was almost out of this race before it started. Graham Crosby in 28, the Queensland Playscape Ford Sierra. Then it's Brett Riley and car number 3 in the Ford Sierra. Richards back in the Nissan GTR, moving up through the field, but they're still well down at this stage. Jimmy Richards running about 6 laps off the leader. Arkle and Slater, the first Porsche in car 15. The Jones Billington Holden Commodore 8th at the moment. And then it's, well, it was the Tony Longhurst, of course, Alan Jones car, which is out of the race. And now in 10th place, another one of the Porsches, the Owen Evans Bill Farmer. And that's the distance behind the leading car, 15 minutes off the pace. Then it's Neil Allport and Gowdy in the... So it means now it's the BMW M3 with a handy lead, and the car that was really starting to challenge Tony Longhurst in the BMW M3, the B&H car, out of the race with that dramatic crash with Tony Longhurst at the wheel.
Well, this car is the one that really holds the key to what happens and unfolds in this race. If it rains, of course. Well, this, of course, is the car that will hold the key to the success or otherwise of the BMW in the great race, because if it rains, and at this point it seems to be holding off again, the Wellington being Wellington, it's cooled off or dried off a little bit. For the last 2 laps, the BMW was dropping 15 seconds a lap off its times of earlier in the race, so obviously the track was very wet. If it had to come in for a tyre change to go to slicks, it would advantage the Mobil team because they could do their tyre change at the scheduled fuel stop. So, not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. This car is only leading by 30 seconds over Peter Brock, Larry Perkins at the wheel. There is another driving spell for Brocky, and if the rain comes down, this car will have to stop for rubber too. It becomes very, very even. It's not over yet. Plenty of action here in the Nissan Mobil 500.
Almost another little wee clash there as we go back to the Nissan Mobil gates there. And that was the Commodore getting mixed up with the little wee Nissan Pulsar GTI. One of the problems, BL, threading your eye of the needle there through the traffic.
Kevin Wall, Doc, so we can keep doing that for another half an hour, so we might beat him.
What's the gap at the moment?
Oh, we're sort of a lap behind him. So I think we'll get that lap back sort of before the finish.
Okay, well, all the best, Fred.
Thanks, Murray. Thanks very much.
Well, that could be a fantastic race within the race as Jimmy Richards behind the wheel of Godzilla had all their chances of winning the race destroyed with those 3 unscheduled pit stops in the first hour with problems to the car. They've sorted those problems out. At the moment, Jimmy Richards, he's been turning at times around about 1:46. He's just a lap down on the car, which is third at the moment. They've got to get up and pass Denny Holman, Robbie Francevic to try and grab that top 3 position. But they're just closing in on Graham Crosby in the Ford Series, doing around about 1:55. So they are 10 seconds quicker than...
It's been an action-packed race, hasn't it? I mean, there's been something happening every minute.
All the way around here. It really has been a problem, but you know, we knew it was going to be like this, and patience will pay off this weekend.
Robbie's doing a pretty good job for you out there too at the moment, I see.
Yes, he's out on the wets, and just before he came in, I noticed he'd been off the circuit somewhere and damaged the front rim on the dries. So he came in automatically, fitted the wets. And I think we're going good now.
Tell me, Danny, just looking at it, a very good chance being the first Kiwi home in this race.
Well, yes, unless Crosby beats us home. But the main thing is I just want to finish.
Yeah, and of course, you know, this must be more than you expected as the way it's shaping up.
Well, I had a couple of side bets thought it would be fourth, but you know, third's not too bad at the moment.
All right, all the very best. Hope we see you on the podium.
Thank you very much, John.
Three Sport just checking out the action here with Jim Richards getting caught up with the traffic and missing the chicane at the end of Jervois Key, so that means he's lost some valuable time trying to close the gap on Denny Holm in third place at this stage. So it's Winkelhock out in front in car 1, Brock in second in the 05 Holden Commodore, Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic at the wheel with racer Robbie. Car 54 on the BMW M3 in third. Crosby still holding off in fourth place. Richards trying to close the gap at this stage. He's still just a lap down behind Graham Crosby, trying to close it on the top 3 finish. That was the aim that Freddie Gibson was talking about. Then there it is, the Commodore of Billington and Jones now up to 6th place.
It's definitely stopped raining now.
Arkell and Dave Slater, with Dave Slater at the wheel of car 15, number 7th at the moment. Then it's the Allport car 94 Ford Sierra Cosworth, and then it's another Porsche with Evans Farmer Liston.
But the wet weather tyres are going on, and let's see who's going to be the first out of the pit. And it's Winkelhock taking a drink as they get the wets on at the front, and right behind him Peter Brock getting the wets on, and they're ready to roll. Hello, there seems to be a problem. They're wiping he wants to inside the windscreen wipe, and that's
And on the outside.
Jochen Winkelhock get away very quick, but they're still wiping the inside of the windscreen of the 05 car, and away he goes this time. By crikey. Let's have a quick word though with the Brock pit and just see exactly why they took quite so long with that. And Larry Perkins, a lot of time spent on that pit stop. Peter, very particular about the windscreen, was he?
Well, it's fogged up, very hard to see.
Is there any way you can defeat that? Do they have any sort of ventilation system?
Get it to stop raining.
All right, well, that's a simple answer, I suppose. But yes, the BMW team were the quickest.
Back out on the track now, and it's Peter Brock as we sweep across to the Wellington waterfront, heading down towards Jervois Key, and all the big guns out there with the wet tyres.
All that seems to have done is just shift the game one step right. I mean, they've both come in for wet tyres. It only would really have been interesting if one of them elected to stay out. So it still can dry out a bit, and we still could have another tyre change. The reason that one car took longer than the other, I suspect, is because it was just a tyre change. And on a tyre change only basis, the single nut locking of the BMW is a quicker wheel to change than the 5 nuts of the big Holden.
Just try and update the situation for you with the driver changes and the lead difference between Winkelhock back to Peter Brock and then Denny Holm.
That's not snow yet.
That's what the rain looks like from the camera's point of view.
That overhead projection too, certainly giving us an idea as to how much the road markings are evident there, which is also going to make the road an awful lot more slippery, just like they've got the Nissan Mobil logo painted down there on the start-finish line. Fortunately, it's in a straight line, but the white line certainly playing hell.
Peter Brock at the moment seems to be having difficulty seeing in the with the conditions. He had his windscreen wiped before. This is the job, as you can see from Brocky's bumper, getting an idea of just how wet it is out there on the track and just how slippery it is. But he was been talking back and having a bit of trouble seeing from the windscreen. Coming down through the slippery part of the circuit by the hairpin. And a lot of this circuit, because it is bumpy, has actually taken out the mini cams of the Nissan car. It's bounced around that much and had trouble with the diff. Brocky. Try and have a chat with Peter Brock and David Oxton.
TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you hear us, Peter? TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you read us?
just having trouble getting through to Peter Brock.
TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you read us?
Or what?
At the moment, you're seeing Peter Brock there just trying to get through to David Oxford from having a bit of technical trouble. And what's happened at the moment, when they cleaned the windscreen, they just knocked the face cam just to the right a bit. So Peter Brock working hard in the Commodore. Well, and now here's some real action at the chicane. Looks like two cars have overshot there in the wet weather. That's number 12. That's the Field Pankman Corolla. Laser, I should say.
Kevin Pateman, a good little peddler of these Group N cars. This was the Laser Turbo that the Ford dealer team, or the Ford team, ran a couple of years ago, and it's been a very, very successful little car.
All right, just going from the Armour All protected replay. There's action back down in the pits. We'll try and find out what's happening with John Cardwell.
Well, Brocky's back in the pits, but I'll tell you what, he's not going to muck around. We've got to get out of the way, and it's just another wipe of the windscreen as he shoots by us at extra fast speed. And yes, that's all it was, just a wipe of the windscreen, Clint.
All right, thanks, John. I know it's a very busy day down there in the pits with the cars screaming in and screaming out, especially with this sort of situation. Peter Brock trying to catch up. 2 minutes 34 behind Joachim Winkelhock, and then another 8 minutes back to Denny Holm, Robbie Francevic, that BMW. Look at Brocky down the back straight here.
He's got a good buffer over the third place car. That's the Italian Ceramics BMW of Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic. But Brock is also a master in the wet, but he'll be wanting to keep things nice and smooth, as he says, keep that rhythm flowing. He revels in conditions like this. 8 times Bathurst winner. He's had a pretty good run here. He won the event here first in 1986. He repeated it in 87 with Alan Moffat. Not a top 6 finish.
Had a great drive in the wet here 2 years ago, didn't he?
Very spectacular man.
Had a Holden Commodore as well. Had a bit of a break in a BMW and a Ford Sierra. Back behind the big V8 and second last year. He is currently second this year. So just like Bathurst, he's got a pretty good record. In fact, the most consistent record. But talking of consistency, the BMW M3s of the Snitches on target to make it 4 in a row this year into the last hour of the great race.
We've got 5 different types of cars in the top 10. We've got a BMW, the Commodore, the Ford Sierra, the Nissan and the Porsche. That's a great drive coming from Nigel Arkell and David Slater in the Porsche. They're running in 6th position at the moment, having completed 106 laps to Winkelhock and Emanuele Pirro's 115.
Fred, these are exactly the conditions you would have been hoping for with a four-wheel drive Nissan, surely.
Yes, it would have been, Murray. It would have been excellent for us now because the car really shines on these conditions, greasy track. But the car's not doing too bad, Murray. It's probably about 3 seconds faster than anyone else except the BMW. So that's not too bad. We're catching everyone except the Winkelhock.
Okay, and the wets, they're holding up okay?
Yeah, they're fine. It's a matter, I suppose our challenge now is trying to get back to the 3rd spot. So we're catching 10 seconds a lap on Kevin Waldock. So if we can keep doing that for another half an hour or so, we might beat him.
What's the gap at the moment?
Oh, we're sort of a lap behind him. So I think we'll get that lap back before the finish.
Okay, well, all the best, Fred.
Thanks, Murray. Thanks very much.
Well, that could be a fantastic race within the race, as Jimmy Richards behind the wheel of Godzilla had all their chances of winning the race destroyed with those 3 unscheduled pit stops in the first hour with problems to the car. They've sorted those problems out. At the moment, Jimmy Richards, he's been turning in times around about 1:46. He's just a lap down on the car, which is 3rd at the moment. They've got to get up and pass Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic to try and grab that top 3 position, but they're just closing in on Graham Crosby in the Ford Series, doing around about 1:55, so they are 10 seconds quicker than Cros at this stage. Do you think you can catch him, Brock?
I think he might. Richards is a very accomplished wet weather driver, and that's not taking anything away from Cros, who's doing a good job on that car. It's the Queensland car. It's hardly got a mark on. It's probably got a few bugs on it, which have been washed off it now anyway. But Richo's very smooth through the traffic, and probably Cros will be being kept aware by Ross Stone of the progress that the Nissan's making on him. So it'll be interesting over the next few laps to see exactly how much they're going to pull him back on. The Sierra's in 4th, the Nissan's in 5th. And of course the top 3 still Pirot and Winkelhock, Brock and Perkins, Holman, Francevic, and what a grand drive. Coming there in 6th position is the Porsche 911 of Nigel Arkell and David Slater, circulating in times of 2 minutes and 2 seconds compared to Winkelhock at 1 minute 45. But this is a tremendous drive from these two guys.
Good move to bring the Porsches in this year.
I think it is. There were a lot of people that were critical about it. And I must admit, I sat back along with some others and had a think about it and said, what's it going to do to this race? But the paying public, this is the entertainment industry. And people now have a much better variety of where they can go and spend their entertainment dollar. They want to see cars racing safely side by side. They want good, exciting stuff. And I don't think it really matters what sort of cars they are.
That part of the track down Cable Street has certainly dried out a lot more than other parts of the track. This is the current Group N placings, with the car 94 out in front, the Crow-born Subaru in 2nd place. So the whole field now coming off the wets, going back onto the slicks.
So the Nissan team originally, Clint, put out the intermediates, but they changed their mind. They put the intermediates away in the last minute, and they've put the slicks on, and it's a very quick change indeed. Jimmy Richards still behind the wheel.
Look at that, super quick by the Nissan team. Richards at the moment in 5th place, and 6 laps still behind Joachim Winkelhock.
Well, the only way, Holden fans, that this man can talk about winning this race technically is if he can talk to that bloke upstairs and send some rain down, because right now he's the only bloke really left out there on full rain tyres. And there they are, Dick Johnson, Peter Brock. Peter Brock is staying out on his wets. Dick Johnson has rejoined with probably intermediates, although the hot tip right now might be to go to full dries.
And while that car has now been controlling the lead, this man, Jimmy Richards, going by our calculations at this stage, has just moved up into 3rd place, which is a fantastic effort by the hard-charging gentleman of touring cars from Australia, the current Australian touring car champion, Bathurst champion. Had all sorts of problems today with the supercar, but now he's been circulating with 139s around about the same time as the BMW, and he's worked his way back up into the top 3, which was the aim that Freddie Gibson was telling us earlier today. So this has been a super drive by Richo.
He was always good. He's good in the wet, he's good in the dry. And just looking at the lap times at the moment, is Winkelhock's turning in a 1:38.02, and then we've got Peter Brock and the Holden Commodore at 1:49. But remember, that's on wet weather tyres.
And he's 2 laps down.
And he's a little reluctant to come in. The Richards car, 1:37. So that's actually the fastest car on the road at the moment, turning in the same lap time as what Kevin Waldock is in the Queensland car.
That's actually 3 laps behind Peter Brock at this stage too. It's probably not enough time for Jim Richards to try and catch Brocky. Here's Peter Brock inside the Holden Commodore. The face cam just got knocked off centre just a little bit. And the word is that Peter Brock is talking back to the pits there. We'll just go down to John Cardwell to find out exactly what's going on with the Holden Challenge here. And the Commodore catch up to the BMW, 2nd and 3rd. 2nd and 1st. That's the 2nd and 3rd last year, actually.
Well, Larry Perkins, you've got some intermediates out behind us here. What's the situation with the tyres? What's the choice?
Well, if it gets worse, gets drier, at least we're ready if he comes in. But you look at it, it's a bit unnecessary. There's only about 12 laps left on our estimation. and the intermediates probably will only go 3 seconds lap quicker. We're going to lose 60 seconds in total if we come in, which is 5 seconds lap, so it's probably not worth coming in, really.
So you're sort of resigned now to a second place finish, are you, Larry?
Well, unless something mechanically happens to the BMW, yes, we're 110 seconds behind, and no way we're going to make that up on the track. So at some stage you've got to accept it. That may be how it's going to be.
Now, Larry, will you leave it to Peter to make the call on whether he comes in for slicks?
Yes, he'll only come in if he feels he's wet, so getting a bit overheating. If they're overheating, they do risk then losing the tread. But he'll be able to pick that up easily.
Okay, Larry, thank you.
Queensland car.
That's actually 3 laps behind Peter Brock at this stage too. It's probably not enough time for Jim Richards to try and catch Brocky. So Jim Richards of the Nissan GTR will finish the race after 3 unscheduled pit stops when they had problems with the diff earlier today, and they thought there was tyre problems. Mark Scaife at the wheel. So it looked like it was going to be a day of disaster. Nissan GTR, all sorts of troubles earlier in the day. BMW M3, the new Evolution model, coming around now. He's done a fantastic job. The crowd gets set along the start-finish line. Charlie Lamb, an exciting moment for the Snitzer team. A fantastic record here over the last 4 years. They'll make it 4 in a row, which is absolutely unbelievable. And Emanuele Pirro will have 4 drives and 4 wins. And Jochen Winkelhock coming down for the great moment of the Nissan Mobil 500 for 1991. And Jochen Winkelhock down the main straight takes the checkered flag. It's 4 in a row for the BMW Snitzer team, and a magnificent effort by Jochen Winkelhock and Emanuele Pirro, winning the Nissan Mobil 500 for 1991. Unbelievable record. Peter Brock crosses the line in 2nd place, and we'll keep our eye out for the 3rd car. It's the Nissan GTR to come back through the field, 6 laps down on the winning car, but they've got back into the top 3. Gentlemen, Jim Richards 3rd this year in the great race. And a great drive too. Jimmy Richards, a great day.
Unbelievable, came from 25th place after the front diff on the car went. Ended up driving the whole way with rear-wheel drive only. So much for the 4-wheel drive Godzilla. But here they are, the guys are here. Jeff Atkinson's going to do the honours with the Nissan Mobil 500 Wellington 91 mementos, the sashes. Not the prize the boys came for, but I'm sure they're going to be more than well pleased with that. Okay, Jeff Atkinson from Mobil Oil does the honours to the boys. Let's call up in 2nd place, crowd favourites Peter Brock and Larry Perkins in the Mobil 1 Holden Commodore. Great stuff to see these guys up on the stage. It's nice to get together the Nissan and the Mobil team. Make the sponsors' day. Mr. Fuji stands there and watches as the Nissan guys stand beside him. Mr. Atkinson does the honours with the Mobil boys. Mr. Fuji also has the trophy for the guys. Righto, we're going to talk to these people very shortly, but first of all, let's call up the winners today from an incredible 4th time in a row, Emanuele Pirro from Italy and Joachim Winkelhock from Germany. Fantastic. In the Castrol BMW #1 from the Schnitzer Motorsport team in Germany. They've come here and done it for the 4th time in a row.